Everybody is talking about 10 Cloverfield Lane, a movie that is suggestive of a new horror franchise. I got to check it out last week, and I'd like to tell you about it in spoiler-free fashion, so stick around. Up next on the Batcave. Hi guys, welcome back to the Batcave. I'm your host, Lady Hellbat. Now, horror fans are intimately familiar with the word franchise thanks to the 1980s, which brought us such iconic slasher horror villains such as Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees. These villains were so iconic that when a sequel came out, we were actually stoked to see them take on another crop of obnoxious teenagers. Now, however, the word sequel, or even worse, the word reboot, is kind of a kiss of death when it comes to horror. Films like the Saw franchise and Paranormal Activity, these studios are just churning out sequels so quickly without really paying much attention to what made those 80s franchises so popular, but perhaps that's fodder for another episode. Anyway, today I want to talk about Cloverfield, which is kind of an unlikely candidate for a franchise. Now, Cloverfield came out in 2008, and it's a found footage / creature feature written by Drew Goddard, who brought us The Amazing Cabin in the Woods, and directed by Matt Reeves, who also directed the Planet of the Apes reboot, as well as directing and writing Let Me In, the remake of the Swedish vampire film Let the Right One In. And if you've seen both those movies, you know why I'm saying wrote in quotations like this, but anyway, again, that's probably for another episode. Anyway, Cloverfield was also produced by Brian Burke and J.J. Abrams, so there was a lot of budding talent in the mix. And it shows. Cloverfield is a really solid movie in spite of some prejudices I had going into it. First of all, it's a found footage movie, and by 2008, I was so fucking sick of found footage movies. And also, this came out after the Godzilla remake, so I was pretty lukewarm on kaiju films as well. Part of the reason found footage became so popular is because indie filmmakers could use the format to pull off a really sweet movie on the cheap. In 1999, the Blair Witch Project proved what could be accomplished with a very small budget and a high dose of creativity using the found footage conceit. But of course, it wasn't long before everyone jumped on the wagon and used and abused the conceit to where we are today. Cloverfield, on the other hand, does not suffer from budgetary constraints, clearly. The story centers around a group of 20-somethings who are gathering to celebrate a friend's going-away party when Manhattan is attacked by a giant creature. You've got these incredible shots of Manhattan in utter and total shambles, and what's better is the creature is actually really well rendered. He reminded me of something straight out of Gears of War. It's huge, otherworldly creature who is able to kind of drop off little parasitic versions of itself that wreak havoc on their own. It was really fucking cool. The movie was so wise to shoot very sparingly of the creature. We see just enough to tell that it's scary as hell. Now, it's a solid little movie, but it's the viral marketing campaign that turned it into a cultural phenomenon. The film was greenlit by Paramount in secret, and they released a teaser trailer that didn't even have a title on it. However, this teaser trailer was so good and everybody was so interested that it generated a huge buzz before the movie even had a name. So the marketing team played on that, and they built up a bunch of websites that had to do with the story tangentially without actually touching in to the film's plotline or characters. They focused instead on things that seemed totally unrelated to the film, like a drink called Slusho and a company called Tagruato. So they were intended to create kind of a meta story for Cloverfield. There was also a monthly manga series called Cloverfield Kishin, which came out on a website, and it outlined a story of two characters seeking refuge before the Chuai incident, which is a fake incident that they released fake news reports about this oil rig that went down in the middle of the Atlantic, and the oil caused a spill and it caused a big shape underneath the water, and they were weren't sure what that was, and then of course you go see the movie and you discover this creature. So all these things together created kind of a meta universe for the Cloverfield story to follow. You can see all these little Easter eggs right here on YouTube on a channel called Cloverfield Clues, which I'll link to in the description box below. So now fast forward to 2015, and J.J. Abrams is a pretty busy guy. He made a movie that came out last year, but it wasn't a very big deal, and you probably didn't hear about it. Now, this little movie was called Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and obviously it was a really fucking big deal ever since Lucasfilm released a trailer in 2014. Now, Disney backed the film with a huge marketing campaign, and then kaboom, it's December, and this movie is blowing box office records, becoming the third highest grossing film of all time. Now, in the film world, January and February are known as what's called dump months, which is to say this is a time of year when movie audiences are on the small side. People have less disposable income after the holidays. For one thing, it's an awkward time for movies to come out within the awards cycle, so they tend to hang on to their Oscar-worthy dramas until December. Of course, there are exceptions to this rule, as in 2016, when the horror world exploded with love for The Witch by Robert Eggers, and also 10 Cloverfield Lane's trailer came out in mid-January, and everybody was paying attention. Now, there had been rumors about a sequel to Cloverfield for a long time, but Drew Goddard and J.J. Abrams would always systematically deny it. And then boom, this trailer comes out, and if you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to assume that you've at least seen the trailer, which is this really creepy little vignette about what appears to be 3 people shacked up in a bomb shelter. Now, at first blush, it doesn't seem to be part of the Cloverfield universe. It's not found footage, for one thing, but it seems like the common thread between these two films is basically disaster striking. And these are 2 tales within that disaster with a different perspective on the events. Now, to that end, Abrams has called it a blood relative or a spiritual successor to Cloverfield. And I think that's pretty apt. Both movies share the same spirit, so to speak. And again, I'm not going to give away anything that wasn't in the trailer, but the story follows a woman named Michelle who is traveling through Louisiana in a car following a huge fight with her fiance Ben. She gets into a car accident, and then she wakes up in a bunker with a man named Howard who claims to have saved her life by bringing her down there before a huge attack of some sort happened. So now she's trapped down there with Howard and also this other guy, Emmett, who knew Howard and knew of the bomb shelter and tried to get in when disaster struck. And the 3 of them could well be the last living people on Earth, but how can Michelle know for sure? Now, the similarities between Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane have to do with the fact that they share a lot of their strengths, which is to say great characterization, amazing performances, and obviously this shared situation of disaster and what are people going to do when faced with this situation. Is it scary? Absolutely. If you're claustrophobic like me, you are going to be very uncomfortable in this film. This film is designed to fuck with you as much as possible. Your perspective shifts back and forth throughout the film, and so your sympathies shift, and you really just have to roll with it. If I could give you one piece of advice going into this film, it would be: don't watch any more videos on the movie. Don't read about the movie. Don't watch the trailer again and again. Go in as cold as you possibly can and just roll with the punches. Don't waste the experience of the movie trying to figure out the ending while you're watching. If you listen to the Faculty of Horror podcast, you've heard me go on about this already in our last episode, but I want to reiterate that figuring out the twist or knowing the truth isn't winning the movie. You're actually robbing yourself of the experience, of the roller coaster and the thrills of the film. You'd be cheating yourself out of the experience, so go in cold and prepare to nibble your fingernails down to the bone, because it is that stressful an experience. Overall, overall, it looks like Abrams is trying to build Cloverfield into something of an anthology of really good disaster films, kind of like how The Twilight Zone worked. He's alluded to having plans for something else that he hopes he'll get to realize that will tie things together a bit, and I can't imagine why that wouldn't happen, because 10 Cloverfield Lane is still killing it at the box office as we speak. But what did you think of the film? I love hearing from you guys, so if you saw it and you enjoyed it, please do comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and like it and share it, because I want to keep bringing you more episodes of the Batcave. See you next time.